Hello, welcome back to Healing Mama Podcast. I am Val, aka Healing Mama. Today is episode 9. Life is happening for us, not to us. So we will kick it off with a quote as always. Life is always happening for you, not to you. Appreciate that gift and you are wealthy. Now and forever. Tony Robbins. The past doesn't equal your future unless you live there. Another Tony Robbins quote. So both of these, by the way, I love Tony Robbins. His mindset and ideals are really in line with what I feel is my ideals at the moment, how I'm feeling, what I believe, all of that thought processes, things like that. So I do resonate with both of these. I have been trying to live in the mindset of life is happening for me, not to me. And that is really hard. And I'll kind of get into some of the things that has happened where I have been able to see that that is the case. Life is happening for me. And the past doesn't equal your future unless you live there. And I feel like a lot of us do have the victim mentality. I did for a very long time. And I felt like that was truly holding me back. I was living in my past and I couldn't let go of it because I had so much anger, so much resentment, so much hurt. And that was keeping me from living my best life. So the past doesn't equal your future unless you live there. So if you're bringing the past into the present, then that's always going to be your situation. You're always going to be living in those feelings. You're always going to be living in those memories. So really trying to let that go. So when bad things happen or what we perceive at the time as bad, um, a lot of the times we can't see past that moment. We can't see beyond what, the future holds. Of course, nobody knows the future, but we can't see. We're living in that moment, I should say. We're dwelling on it and we're like, oh my God, this is our current situation. We're going to stay here. We're going to be stuck here. And we are really hurting ourselves by doing that because we're looking at it from a glass half empty kind of mindset versus a glass half full. And okay, what do I have to learn from this? Why is this happening to me? What is it that I need to take out of this situation to put into my life? So I used to get major anxiety to where I would break out in like stress hives. I would get psoriasis flares. So I do have psoriasis. And so with psoriasis, anytime you are stressed or going through it, your body does react. And so I would harp on my situations. I would, it would be running through my mind 24/7. And I was really, really dwelling on what that present situation looked like for me and kind of going into the future, even though I don't even know what the future held. Um, and so that really, really caused physical reactions in my body with stress hives, with my psoriasis flares. And so it physically makes you sick. And so trying your best not to think too much into it, not to think too much into the future and you know, in a way almost assume that what your present is going to be your future situation. And so now I've gotten to a point in this journey recently where I have tried to stop myself and really look at the situation, like I said, from a glass half empty, a glass half full perspective. So I'll give you some scenarios. This past week in particular has been a pretty eye-opening week for me. I feel like recently, within the last month or so, I've really been getting a lot of situations that have allowed me to see the growth that I've had throughout this journey. And so this past weekend, I had a situation. My husband and my daughter were in the truck with me. I was driving, and there was a road rage situation. Old Val used to be crazy. And, I would flip people off, curse at them. And this man, he honked at me, whatever the case is. I do my best to not look because I feel like when I do look, then that does start to um, pique my anger or frustration a bit. So I just do my best not to look because I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to let them take me out of my peace. That was his fault. I had no wrong. Obviously, if I was wrong, I would say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Um, but yeah, so he had um issues. He cut me off and then he was upset about it. So we ended up, kind of lining up at the stoplight. So I see somebody waving. So I turn to the side and he tells me to roll down my window. So I roll down my window and he's like, you almost killed me. And I told him, no, you almost killed yourself. Um, and so he starts telling me all this stuff. I tell him, have a nice day. I roll up my window and, he's calling me this, that, and the other. And my husband starts to get upset and he wants to, get off and do something or say something to him. And I'm like, hey, no, like, we don't need to get to that point. And he's like, he called you the B word. And I'm like, it's okay. Like, I'm fine. It's not a big deal. And old me would have never reacted like that. If anything, I would have been way worse. I probably would have tried to get off and be crazy. And so I was able to see that in that moment, when it was something bad that was happening, I didn't take myself back to the old Val. I was able to rest in my peace, not let him take me out of that headspace, not let him take me out of my peace. And really, it was crazy because my daughter would always hate it when I would tell people stuff back or go crazy or go off on people. She would be like, Mommy, please don't. Mommy, no. Mommy, no, don't, no. Please stop, stop. And that's horrible. That's horrible that I was putting my daughter in this situation, that I was scaring her to where she was begging me to stop, and yet I couldn't see past myself. Um, so in this situation, when we got back home, she's like, wow, like, you didn't go crazy. And I'm like, I know. I'm so proud of myself. Because that's huge for me. That is huge for me. And so I was able to see that in that, even though it's a smaller scenario, in that bad moment, in that bad situation, life was happening for me because I was able to see through that event that I do have growth and that I am able to kind of control my peace and what I'm letting take me out of that peace. And so I do really try to ask myself, what is it that I'm supposed to learn or take away from this situation? I did have another situation where it's on a deeper level where I'm not honestly ready to divulge in it or get into it too much. So when somebody would hurt me in the past, my normal reaction was to be petty and hurt you back because I wanted to hurt you more than you were going to hurt me. Or I was going to show you that whatever you were doing to hurt me didn't faze me. In all reality, it did, but I didn't want you to see it. And I was going to do whatever it took to hurt you back. I was going to give you low blows. I was going to hurt you. And so the situation that happened this past weekend, it was a pretty deep one. It was one that kind of like threw me for a loop. And like I said, old me would have just been hurtful, petty, wanting to hurt the other person. And so I did my best to like pull myself away when it happened. I stepped outside. I went to collect my thoughts. I sat outside for a bit and I was like, okay, like, just breathe. Like, let's collect ourselves. Let's get back into this moment. Let's get back into a headspace where we're thinking clearly. So really knowing what I had to do in order to kind of look at the bigger picture was step one. Step two was to look at it and ask myself, like, okay, I don't like this situation. I don't like what's happening, but what am I supposed to learn out of it? And the situation has happened before. And I've never asked myself that. I've always just gotten pissed and gone off on people. And this time I'm like, okay, let's collect ourselves. Let's get it together. What is it that I need to learn? And honestly, I feel like I did take something away. I'm learning that, sometimes people's actions it's all having to do with how they're feeling on the inside. And it doesn't necessarily mean that I need to take that on. And so I used to make this particular situation, and I know it's difficult for you to get the full picture if I'm not saying it, but I'm not ready at this point in time. But essentially, what I was doing is I would, in the past, take on this person's emotions and I would put them onto myself and make it a self-reflection. And I would be furious and I would rage and I would go crazy, and rage in the sense of I would go off. I've never been physical or anything like that, but this time was different. This time I was like, okay, God, I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to learn from this, but what I feel like I'm taking away right now is that that's this person's problem, and that is not something that I need to carry or that I need to take with me because that isn't my fault. And so really still, I don't know if I have the answer to what it is that I was supposed to learn from it, but I'm open to looking back and being like, okay, I see the bigger picture now. And so I'm changing my perspective to, hey, you know what? Right now, maybe I don't have the answer to why this happened to me. But I know that in the future, I'm going to look back and be like, okay, full circle. Here we go. That's what it was. So when things seem out of line with what we want or we thought we needed, we have to trust the process and that our higher power has everything in life lined up for us in our divine favor. And I'm not a religious person. I would say I'm a very spiritual person. So I believe that everybody does have a higher power, and whoever that is for you, do you. I'm not telling you what to do or making any kind of recommendations. But I do believe that. I do believe that our higher power does have things lined up for us in our divine favor. And yes, we have the ability to be co-creators of our lives and make those decisions and not necessarily take the path that we're supposed to have taken. Um, but I do feel like everything is happening for a reason. And so this week did leave me feeling somewhat drained. I felt stressed out. I felt like I was overwhelmed and I needed some me time, some self-love. And so I went to the ocean. I sat there for like 45 minutes and I meditated for a little bit. I kind of collected myself and I kind of let everything go. I did some grounding, um, and just really just tried to recenter and refocus myself. And so I love to just stare at the ocean. And when I stare at the ocean, it reminds me that my higher power, who I believe is God for myself, if he can control the waves and the tide from spilling out into the roads and causing chaos and wreaking havoc, then he can also do the same to calm my spirit. He can do the same to calm my soul. And so when I go to the ocean, it reminds me of that. It reminds me that as much as my emotions are raging inside, sometimes like the waves, I have the tools that I need to get me to a better place, to a calmer place. And so, really, just relying on those tools and relying on my higher power and believing that at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay and that it's okay to take space for myself and to collect myself and to think on a deeper level other than what's just surface level. And so, that really did help me. That helped me reset. That helped me, think deeper on what was going on this past weekend, this past week, really see that what's happening in my life is all for good. And it's just, every week I get this sign or what I feel is a sign that I'm on the path that I'm supposed to be on. I'm on this journey that I'm supposed to be on, and I'm helping others and I'm helping myself as much as my goal is always to help somebody. I'm learning that as much as I'm helping someone, I'm helping myself. As much as I'm trying to get others to see something, I'm getting myself to see it. And so I feel like I'm on the best track of life that I could possibly be on. And I'm in the best mindset that I could be in. And without everything that happened in my childhood, without the traumas, without the pain, the heartache, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I wouldn't be who I am. And so, in a sense, I'm grateful for everything that happened. I'm grateful for the traumas. I'm grateful for the pain. And I know now I can look back at it with a clearer picture and a clearer view and say, that's why this happened to me. Because if I didn't feel that or I didn't experience that, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be in this sense of healing. I wouldn't be in this journey. And so I feel like everyone at some point in time has a relationship or a family situation or a job not work out. And at that time, we're devastated. It's happened to me. We're devastated. We're broken. We feel like it's the end of the world. We don't know what to do with ourselves. And I feel like, at that point in time, we dwell in that situation because we can't see past ourselves. We can't see past that situation. And we feel like it's the end. And at times, for some of us it is, when I was going through my grief struggle, I felt like it was the end. And now looking back at it, I'm able to see that through grief and through that pain and through, almost taking my life, that I was able to heal and find this journey of healing, and life is so much better. But I had to go through that to get to here, to get to this place, to get to this healing. And so, sometimes, like I said, you go through a relationship and you love that person and you're heartbroken that it ended. and you're asking God why, or you're asking your higher power why. I don't understand why we were so perfect for each other. That was my true love. But I promise you, in time, you will look back and you'll say, hey, you know what? It worked out the way it was supposed to. It was all in divine favor, and it happened for a reason, because now look at where I'm at in my point, and look at where I'm at in life. Look at who I'm with now. This person loves me more. This person respects me more. Or even if you're not with somebody else and you learned to love you more and not rely on somebody else's love. So again, life is happening for you, not to you, and trying to take yourself out of that victim mentality and trying to take yourself out of that negative mindset will make a difference. If you lost your job and you're like, hey, I'm struggling. Let me give you an example. Back in 2017, I had a job that I loved. I loved the people. I loved what I did. I was working in an office doing what I wanted to do. And I had lost my grandfather, and I, took time off, but I had issues with my supervisor who didn't, like me too much, to be honest, to be fully transparent. I won't dive into it too much, but anyways, so they wrongfully terminated me based on the time that I took off for my grandfather, when I did have bereavement and PTO that I took. But it was a wrongful termination, but I was still so lost and still so hurt because I loved that job. I loved my coworkers, and it didn't make sense. And I cried and I bawled and I was like, why, God? I don't understand. Well, here we are years later. COVID happened right after that position. I did find another job that allowed me to work remotely. Then COVID happened, which the whole world shut down. Everybody had to work remotely, but I had the benefit of already having remote experience. So I didn't have to readjust. I didn't have to freak out. I wasn't losing it because I had already been in that environment. Even beyond that, fast track, I was able to start my own businesses, after that. And I was able to branch out, and I'm able to work from home and be home and do what I have to do. And if I wouldn't have lost that job, I would probably still be there. So now looking back at it, I'm like, hey, I lost that job because it wasn't meant for me anymore. I had done my time there. I had fulfilled my purpose in that role, and my higher power, God, was getting me ready for bigger and better things. And so knowing that God had that all in alignment so that I can be where I'm at today, I'm so grateful for. So now I'm at the point where if it doesn't make sense or I don't seem to understand it at this point in time, I'm like, okay, I don't get it. Maybe I feel like I'm taking a little bit of a lesson from it, but it still doesn't make sense. But I'm going to open myself up to, looking back full circle at the end and saying, okay, I see the bigger picture now, and being grateful, because it did take me years to realize that losing that job set me up for the success. And let me tell you, it was tremendous for me. Huge. I never made as much money. I had never been as brave to start businesses. I had never been in the situation in life that I had been in. And if anything, that job would have just kept me in my comfort zone and kept me comfortable. And hey, you know what? I'm not going to look for another job. I'm happy. But God had to take that away. And God was like, nope, I know you're not going to leave. So let me go ahead and take this from you. So I have bigger, better things. And it reminds me of this picture that I've seen on Instagram or Facebook. I don't know which one it was. And, it's God, and he has like a huge teddy bear behind his back. And the little girl has a little teddy bear, and she's like, no, you can't take it. And he's saying, like, I have bigger and better things for you. And so I feel like that is my situation. That was my situation. So I am blessed to live the life I live. I'm blessed to be in the healing journey that I'm on, to be able to know I don't have to understand everything right now. I don't have to understand what life holds or what the meaning of this is or that is. Just knowing that when it's time for me to know, I'll know. And to be prepared for amazing growth. And I'm living in this mindset of I'm creating the best life that I can. The better it gets, the better it gets. And I challenge you to repeat that to yourself daily. The better it gets, the better it gets. And that could be in any situation. The better your relationship gets, the better it's going to get. You keep working on it. The better that you're getting in your healing journey, the better that your life is going to be. The better financial, the more you try, the better your financial status is going to be. And so really just keeping that mantra with you, the better it gets, the better it gets. And so I challenge you to repeat that to yourself. And I challenge you to take a step back when the world is starting to spiral and you feel like you're losing control. I challenge you to take a step back, take a moment for yourself, go outside, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this? And sometimes it's instantaneous. You're going to get the answer right away and you'll be able to look at a bigger picture. Other times you're not, and it's going to take years or months, but you'll be able to remember and look back and say, you know what? It makes sense. I see why. And so I am so grateful to have you all for listening. And I really, really hope that in some way, in every one of these podcasts, you are taking something away from it. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to share them with me. If you want to talk about a specific topic, please, share them with me, write a comment, message me, whatever it is. I really, really, really want to make sure that I'm creating my platforms to help people and make a difference. And like I said, as much as I'm helping you guys or sharing with you guys and teaching you guys something, I'm helping myself. So if you are interested in sharing some information, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to help in any way that I can. Until next time, I send you so much love, peace, positivity, and I hope that you have an amazing day. Bye, guys.